Merry meet and welcome, witches. My name is Missa. I am the Blossom Valley sister. And I will get to the meaning behind that pseudonym at a later date. Now, I know none of us need another podcast, especially me. So instead, think of this as more of a quick 5 to 10 minute voice memo from me, your favorite spiritual sister. I'll also be uploading the video and hopefully providing a transcript on Substack because I know that we all have our preferred forms of consuming content. Today, I want to talk to you about liminal space. I have been a practicing witch for 7 years. I was a non-practicing witch for most of my life before that, even if I didn't always know to identify that way. I chose today, February 1st, 2025, to record this first episode because today is my day of liminal space. For those of you who don't follow the Wheel of the Year, January 31st through February 2nd is observed as the Witches' Sabbath of Imbolc, sometimes called Candlemas. And it was on this Sabbath, January 31, 2018, that I transitioned from my maiden aspect into, well, not quite mother, but at least into my married aspect when I eloped with my partner of 8.5 years. 2 days later, February 2nd, 2018, I solidified this transition with my first true ritual, a self-initiation into the craft. I was finally ready to name myself witch. Each of us has our own spiritual path, our own fool's journey in choosing whether or not to claim this moniker. This was not the first day that I set foot on the Witch's Road. I had been walking it all along, since childhood really. But this day marked the first time I stepped out with intention. So much has happened over the last 7 years to make me the witch I am today. But most impactfully, I lost my spouse to melanoma on February 2nd, 2022. So the 3 days of Imbolc consist of my wedding anniversary, the anniversary of my spouse's death, and the day in between, my liminal space day. So that is why today, my 7th-ish anniversary of my self-initiation, seems like a particularly auspicious day to start something new. Again. So why do I call myself a spiritual sister? To start, I want to clarify that I'm not a professional witch. I have no credentials or special qualifications. I don't lead a coven or any other type of pagan order. Spiritual sister is a self-identification, just like witch. It's an identity that I claimed for myself shortly after I was widowed. The day my spouse died, I moved back in with my parents, and I took a few months off of work. Grief forcefully removed me from my daily mundane routine. And it gave me the space to rely on and to nurture my spirituality. My best witchy friend flew out from Colorado and took a hike with me on some ancestral property. And she asked me what my plan was going forward. I didn't intend to go back to work. Spoiler alert, I ran out of money and went back after all. I expressed to her that the future I saw for myself was to be a witchy nun. A spiritual sister, if you will, instead of a religious sister. And yes, I was reading Dune at the time and completely obsessed with the Bene Gesserit. That concept of a spiritual sister has stuck with me through the years. For those of you who aren't familiar with religious sisters, they're what we would colloquially refer to as a nun. Nuns are technically cloistered and don't leave their convent, whereas religious sisters do go out and serve in their community. There are probably some other differences, but I'm not a Christian, and that's not what this podcast is about. I'm here today to talk about witchcraft. So while I'm not a professional witch, taking on the mantle of spiritual sister has been a conscious shift into devoting myself more fully toward the study of my spirituality. Unlike religious sisters, I still have my mundane job and I live a predominantly mundane life. And that brings me back to liminal space. Because isn't that all of modern witchcraft? Balancing our magical practices with our mundane reality? The shadows, the in-between place, the liminal space. That is the realm of witches. I started this podcast, or to borrow a term from Layla Kelly and the Death Becomes Her podcast, this mini cast or voice memo or whatever you want to call it, as a way to immerse myself into the spiritual world and explore the intersections of the magical and the mundane. My personal practice involves a lot of grief and healing work, glamour magic, political activism, and of course, tarot and astrology. So come back on the 7th of each month if any of that is your vibe. Thank you for joining me on this journey as we explore the space betwixt and between the magical and mundane. Stop by and stay tuned on the 7th for another chat with me, Sister Missa. Blessed be. And cut.